What's going on, everybody? I'm Jason, this is Tennessee Mountain Homestead, and today we're back out in the shop to do a quick update video on Mabel Grace's 2001 Murray Widebody LT. On last week's episode, we pulley swapped this thing. I went ahead and put a 7-inch pulley in the rear and a 5-inch pulley in the front. We also locked the transaxle and put fresh fluid in it. This thing got some new tires, and on top of all that, we had to get a different belt because the pulleys are different. So this belt turned out to be a 94-inch. It worked, kinda. It was too tight. So we tried to break it in, and it actually did break in. It does go slack, and it doesn't turn the motor, but it's not perfect. When the motor's running, it's just tight enough that it still tries to turn the transmission a little bit sometimes. So that belt's a 94-inch that's in there. I've got a 94.5. We're gonna go ahead and put this on. Something else I noticed with this transmission is that when I had it apart, we didn't cut a vent into it. And after I ran it around for a half hour or 45 minutes at high speed, I reached my hand up under here and this transaxle was hot. And it doesn't have any place to put the gases it builds up inside, so it started pushing a little bit of fluid out where I guess the gasket maker is thinnest. So give me a couple minutes, we're gonna regroup, and we'll get right back to you. One thing I'd like to say before we get started is that Mabel and the girls aren't here. Mama, Sydney, Presley, and Mabel are having a girls' night out at the hotel down in Chattanooga. So tonight's a boys' night. Besides that, tomorrow we're tilling the spring garden, and Mabel's tractor needs to be ready so that she can haul rocks tomorrow with a trailer.
Walking on my saddle and I'm at a hotel. I'm having even fun than you, Daddy.
Without further commentary, Stefan's going to help me take off the tires and drop the trans. Before we get any further, I'd just like to say, this is not a Minecraft shirt. I have no idea what Minecraft even is. This is an Iraq veteran shirt that I've had for several years. Now let's get right to it. All right, y'all, so we got the transmission over here on the workbench, and the first thing I did was pull this rubber plug out of this factory hole here by the shifter mechanism. I believe this is a drain or a fill plug. Now, I have a tote full of brass fittings that I've collected, and I have a 1/4-inch NPT with a 3/8 barb on the end of it. And it just so happens it fits in this hole very snug. And off camera, I already tried threading it in, and it is cutting its own threads. So I got it about this far before. It does have a taper because it is a pipe thread fitting, but that sucker is in there. It is super tight, super snug. We're gonna go with that. I don't gotta cut the case. I do have a set of NPT taps from Harbor Freight and a couple of dies. And fortunately, we don't have to use those because I would if I had to, but we don't want chips falling down on our case. I think that's gonna be good enough. So we're gonna go ahead, put some plumber's tape on the threads, put this thing back in the tractor, get the belt back on it, and go test it out. This thing is so lightweight, it's amazing. It's like nothing like a 2300 or even like a 820. I feel like I could juggle with this thing, I feel like. All right, we got a quick update. So the transmission's back in place. We've got our 94.5-inch belt on it, which it's tight. The clutch is engaged right now. It's got good tension. And when I release the clutch, if I can find it, this thing goes completely slack. So it comes off the engine pulley in the front, and there ain't no way that's gonna turn. So I think we got the right belt for sure this time. Now, another thing that I'm doing is an afterthought. I wish I would have remembered this before I put the transmission back in, but there's a non-threaded bung, or I don't know what you would call this in the casting. There's no threads like I just said, so I'm taking a 5/16 18 tap and I'm just threading it down in there. And because it's cast aluminum, it ain't no big deal. It's just going easy. What I'm gonna do is build a little quick bracket that comes off of this up to the frame. I'm gonna weld it here or bolt it. I'll see what I can do. I'm gonna lean on bolting it because I don't feel like breaking the welder out and clean all this grease off. But I'll build a bracket that goes over and connects to this, and we'll put a bolt in it. That way the transmission will be supported from the front and the back. Quick update. So I ran the 5/16 tap down in that hole and it threaded in, and the bolt threaded down in there, but the bolt was loose and the threads, they didn't cut very deep. So I'm gonna switch it up and run a 3/8 in there instead. And I'm doing this with a 5/16 open-end wrench. I'm just turning the tap down in there with this. And the only reason it's working is because this is cast aluminum and it's not very hard to tap out. So I got my piece of support bar bent up. It's 1/8 inch by 1 flat stock, and I just put it in the vise and bent 2 90s in it. I currently have it bolted down to the transmission, and it's sitting perfectly on top of the upper lip of the frame rail. So now I'm just gonna go ahead while it's bolted up tight where it needs to be, and I'm gonna send a drill bit right up through there. And then once that's bolted, it'll be a self-jigged thing, like it'll be in place. So then I'll take it apart, I'll paint it, we'll put it back together, should be good to go. This transmission is now supported from both sides. Bracket's done, the bolts are in it, they're tight, it's painted, everything looks great. What I did next, I took a piece of hose, put it over that barb, it passes straight up through here, nothing interferes with it, the clutch, nothing. So what I'm gonna do is put this filter, it's a fuel filter that I tried to use for my PCV on my engine on the John Deere, and it got oil soaked one day and it doesn't work. You guys saw the setup I have on that, but I saved the filter. I'm just gonna use this on here because nothing's really gonna be passing in and out of this, very little. You know, if any pressure builds up in here, it's just gonna come out of this. So this lives up in here now. I'm gonna stick it right in the end of that hose, put a hose clamp on it, and I'm just gonna zip tie this right to this bracket up here, this shifter bracket, and it's gonna stay there. I could always run another piece of hose, a 5/16, to step down to a smaller hose coming out of this filter and run this somewhere else where it's accessible or just not behind the tire so much. But anyway, that's what's going on, and we're gonna keep moving. So here's the final installation for the transmission vent. As I was saying a minute ago, I've got this 3/8 piece of hose coming up through here. I've got this old fuel filter I bought for my tractor, which is now oil soaked. Doesn't matter, but that's here. It's zip tied to this shifter bracket piece right here. And then I took another piece of 5/16, some extra hose that I had, and I've just got it stuck over the end of the filter, and it goes up through the battery box with this positive wire, and it just comes out under the seat. That way, the end of this filter is not open under here with the tire kicking up all kinds of dirt and mud all over it. So that should be good to go. I think we're good to go. We're gonna go ahead, put the tires back on this thing, drop it down, take it outside. It's dark out, but hey, it's all good. We're gonna test this thing out tonight and make sure it works. All right, before we button this thing all the way up, we're just giving it a once over, make sure all our bolts are tight, which they are. And I wanted to also show how the clutch mechanism works and how loose the belt gets. So right now it's tight, clutch is engaged. And then this thing does not have much throw. That's it right there. But the belt goes slack as soon as it gets to about right here. And all the extra is nothing. It's kind of useless, but the belt is completely slack. And if you look up here on the crankshaft, the belt is able to come off the front of the crankshaft a good amount. Right here. Watch right there. See that? So I can turn the crankshaft and it doesn't even attempt to turn the belt. That's how it should be. The belt guides are right there next to it. The belt keeps, and they're holding the belt in such a manner that the only way it can go is off the front. So I think that's gonna work for us. Let's get it outside. Guys, we're down off the jack stands. I got my clutch pushed in. We're ready to fire this thing up and go test it out. This thing. Very predictable. this thing runs and drives like it should now. So that belt made all the difference. And yeah, 94.5 inches it is. I can slip the clutch like I should be able to now, just like the other tractors. And I think this thing's gonna be 100% safer and more user-friendly for Mabel. So stay tuned. Tomorrow we're gonna be tilling the garden. We're gonna be filming that. We're gonna have the tractors out. We're gonna be doing a bunch of stuff tomorrow. And I think Mabel is going to be very pleased with her new toy now that it's 100%. So if you're new to the channel and you found any of this stuff interesting, please like, comment, definitely subscribe, and go back and check out the previous videos. There's a playlist for this tractor in particular. We just got it a few weeks ago, and it's come from a junker all the way to basically a mild entry-level mud mower. And once again, my name's Jason. This is Tennessee Mountain Homestead. See you on the next one.